people have heard this story before, but when I was 10 years old, my parents said, you're going to take some fiddle lessons. There was no discussion, and it was just, you're going to do this. I had expressed an interest in music. I was always whistling and humming and stuff, and my father played the fiddle in a real sort of Northern Irish style. He held the fiddle down here like that. He was always playing around the house, and I was always lilting and humming the tunes that he played. And we tried out dancing, my older brother and myself, a few years earlier, and that was a disaster. My sister who's here in the front row, she also did dancing later.
1 week.
Yeah. And then my two other younger brothers lasted a few more weeks after that. Don't even know who the dancing school was that we went to, but Rose went to Charlie Mulvihill, who was very famous, and happened to be a cousin of the fiddle teacher that I was sent to along with my brother Sean. So I went when I was 10. The first lesson was with Martin Mulvihill. Was a disaster. He was from the Kerry Limerick border and spoke with a really strong accent. Lovely, wonderful man. He was telling me to pint my finger down on the bow. My mother had to translate that he meant point your finger down. But it was a disaster. But at some point, it clicked for me, and I fell in love with it and became obsessed with it. And after I was playing 3 or 4 months, my father and I went to a fesh in, I believe it was Gaelic Park, to hear the great Andy McGann, who was an American-born fiddle player, and studied with Michael Coleman, who was the preeminent Sligo-style fiddle player. Came to the United States in the early 19-teens, lived his whole life in America, made these amazing recordings, and had one well-known student, and that happened to be Andy McGann. So I go to hear him. I just am enamored with Andy's playing, and at the end of the day, my father asks Andy if he would tolerate listening to me play a tune. So I play this tune, and Andy, very polite, struggles for something nice to say, and looks up at the sky for a while, and he was a man of very few words at the best of times, and says, well, he plays in tune. That was a great compliment, and I'm walking away, and I said, Dad, did you hear that? He said, I play in tune. My father said, well, what he's really trying to say is you're not bowing correctly. We're going to call him Martin Wynn. So who was Martin Wynn? Martin Wynn was an old friend of my father's from the 50s, over 15 years before this event. And my father made his acquaintance, and then they became friends when they were living in the same rooming house in South Bronx in St. Anne's Parish. How many people know where St. Anne's is? It's right off, right near Yankee Stadium. And my father, thought he was a pretty good player in that style, but he loved the Sligo style that he heard over the radio. Ironically, he heard this music, the Coleman music being played over the radio, being broadcast back from the United States on Irish radio, and that's what he wanted to sound like. But he was kind of, stuck in that mold of playing that Northern Irish style. So he plays a few tunes for Martin, and then Martin plays for him, and he hears this music coming out of Martin's fiddle. That's the same music that he heard over the radio, and he was mortified that he would. So he tried to take some lessons from Martin. It didn't work out very well, and Martin sat him down and said, Jim, you're not responding. So my father's telling me this story on the way to meet Martin Wynn for the first time, and sitting in the back seat of the car along with me is my brother Sean. Oldest son is, or his only son is here. John just arrived. Where's your dad, by the way? He said he was going to come. Church. So we were petrified. I mean, this man, stopped teaching our father, for heaven's sakes. He must be really tough. But he ended up being the kindest, most gentle human being you could ever meet. He was also a genius. He played calculus problems for fun. Was versed in Latin, just off the chart. But thankfully I responded, and we became lifelong friends. He became a member of the family. Was at every family event that we had, and all the holidays and everything. So about a year after I played that tune for Andy McGann, and after a good year of studying with Martin Wynn to complement what I was also learning from Martin Mulvihill, I had occasion to sit down at a session in my neighbor's house right around the corner on Holland Avenue in the Bronx with Andy McGann. And got a chance to sit and play with this man, and it was just like dying and going to heaven. And one of the tunes that he played at this session was a tune called The Banks, which is another Scottish hornpipe that was written by Scott Skinner. So I'll play a little bit of that. It's a very hard tune to accompany. Kieran does a great job on it, so I love playing it with him. I don't mess this up, Kieran. I put a lot of pressure on it.